There's a long way to go, but based on the early returns in spring practice, I think this guy might be a breakout young player on these Miami Hurricanes.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We made it. And a happy early morning to those of you who are with us when this episode first comes out, even before the Friday spring practice. I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet and writer for allhurricanes.com. And a couple of players out there, young guys, true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, I think could break out this year. Folks, we are available free wherever you get your podcasts here on Locked On Canes. We're available free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. A friend of the show who I happened to see out at practice on Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to talking about what's coming up on Friday as well with, is our good friend Dante from Q Sports Media. So Dante, it was great to see you out there first and foremost. And before we talk about anything else you might have seen at that practice, we got to talk about the catch. And I'm so glad because the media cameras had to be turned off before that period. And there's, because they don't want people who cover other teams to see like the routes that receivers are running. So certain parts of practice were not allowed to film. Thankfully, Miami had their own cameras on that Cam Ward to Xavier Restrepo, because I was talking so much about that catch until people saw the video. A lot of people thought I was just lying. Like I'm just making stuff up, like video or it didn't happen. Well, we got the video, Dante. It did happen.
When I saw that catch happen, the ball was thrown and it was in the air for so long, also with a lot of Cam Ward's other throws. It seems like the ball is really just floating in the air majestically. It just takes forever to come down, and it's like it's always perfectly in stride to where the receiver can barely just get it. And it was the same thing for the Xavier Restrepo catch, except I think he made it a little harder on Restrepo because it was a post corner route, and Restrepo was had his body lined up for the corner route, and it was thrown a little bit inside to the back of the end zone. And Restrepo was able to use his incredible ball tracking skills and get his eyes still on the ball, caught it with one hand. From my perspective, where I was at on the sideline, I didn't know what happened until Restrepo stood up with the ball and threw it down, and I'm like, yeah. I didn't even realize it was a one-hand catch until I saw the videos after.
Same here. Like I knew he caught it, but I didn't I knew it was a difficult catch, but I didn't realize how difficult it was till I saw the slow-mo.
And people don't understand how hard it is to really track a ball in the air and have the body control to really be able to just come around and still be able to know exactly where the ball's at. And it was also an and one in football. So got the flag and everything. Man, Restrepo is that guy.
So now, and Restrepo's he's not my breakout player because he already broke out. Like 1,000-yard receiving last year, was second in the ACC in that category. But I'm going to stick with the wide receivers, Dante, because again, I'm singling this guy out, but he's not the only one. I think there's a handful of young receivers who really look like they're hitting the ground running here so far in spring. But I'm so impressed by JoJo Trader. Like you watch Josiah Trader out there, like he's got the benefit of being an early enrollee, true freshman. So he's getting the head start that players years ago couldn't get before early signing day and early enroll and all that stuff. And I see JoJo out there looking very much like he belongs. And, I don't necessarily think he's going to be a starting receiver this year for Miami, but there's going to be a rotation. I think JoJo is going to get on the field a lot because he looks the part so far.
Yeah, I agree. JoJo and the one-on-one routes that we were able to see, he really looked unguardable. I didn't really see him get stopped. I don't know if you saw him get stopped, but the one rep that really stood out to me was I'm pretty sure it was a double move on DP2, Daryl Porter, and he had him beat by like 3-4 yards, and that's our guy. Like last year, Daryl Porter had an awesome year. He really stood out to a lot of us as fans, and especially, the Canes themselves, because to wear number 2, you really got to be that guy. And Daryl Porter is that guy, and JoJo really put the work on him yesterday in the morning, and that one rep that they got to with each other. But JoJo was really unguardable, and also I think that Carr had a solid day. Carr is really fast for his size. He looks I thought he was smaller than what he
Same
actually
here.
was,
Yeah, same.
but he's a big kid, and with the speed and the quickness, I think it was 2 or 3 routes he got cut short because they were one guy pulled off his helmet. There was a couple holds that he had on him, but he didn't really get to show out like JoJo did, but it was due to other reasons of guys holding on to him and stuff like that. So I think Carr's kind of slept on right now because of all the hype with JoJo, but Carr's also going to be a really good player for us. I believe that.
Are you worried at all? And I know that not everybody who's going to be available to play in the fall is available in spring. That's just how it goes. But are you worried about the defensive backs at all? Because I only saw 4 cornerbacks doing drills on Wednesday, and there were a lot more safeties. The safety room is a lot more full, but there's obviously you're trying to replace 2 guys who are headed to the NFL from last year in Cam Kinchins and James Williams. I did see Mish Powell getting a lot of reps, and he looks pretty good. Savion Riley from Vanderbilt at safety. But are you worried at all about maybe defensive backfield could be one of the few concerns on this team?
So I'm not really too concerned. Obviously, I think that it like the gap from the secondary to our D line and O line and wide receivers, quarterback room, all of that. I do think that the secondary might be our weakest right now. I'm not concerned though because Damari Brown is in at spring. He's going to be coming back in the fall. The addition of Mish Powell was huge. I do want to say that Xavier Restrepo did catch that ball on Mish Powell, and It was great coverage. But when I first saw Mish, I looked at Azubi and I was like, dude, I didn't realize how big Mish Powell actually was.
Let me pause this for a second because I agree with you and I agree with Azubi, and it was a debate on the media sideline the other day because for whatever reason, like Matt Shodell, who I love Matt Shodell from Cane Sport, but he doesn't think Mish is big. Like he was like arguing with us about that. I don't know. How do you need him to be 6'5"? He's got to be James Williams to be big.
Well, Mish compared to Cam, I would say Mish is a little bigger than Cam, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So, and Cam didn't have a lot of size. That wasn't really his thing, but he also wasn't small, and he also didn't play small. And Mish also doesn't play small, and he's bigger than Cam. The arms on that guy were like a freaking linebacker. Another guy that really stood out to me for their size was Josh Horton, the second-year guy, defensive lineman.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh, man.
He's huge, yeah.
I remember going to the games last season and seeing him and being like, how can that be a true freshman? And I saw him yesterday, and I'm like, this guy got even bigger. So it's really wild, man, with the food and the nutrition and all the stuff, the weightlifting that's really bringing these guys to the next level. You can even see in JoJo, he's already put on a little bit of size himself.
Well, I'm really happy to be joined here by our pal Dante from Q Sports Media. Make sure you follow him on X at Q Sports Media too. We're going to continue the conversation on the other side. Again, when the media's out there, we're out there for about 40, 45 minutes. I can't watch everybody, and I get distracted very easily by the quarterbacks and the receivers. So I'm going to give you 5 players that I really want to watch even more closely at the next spring football practice. I want to get Dante's take on who he wants to look for as well. We're also going to answer some of you guys' questions on this episode, the Locked On Canes Insiders. You can click the link in the show description below to try out Locked On Canes Insiders for free for 14 days. Then it's $4.99 a month if you want to opt in, get some added value there. My friends, we're only getting started right here. You want to keep it locked on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. I am so thrilled to have Fire TV on board with us now on the Locked On Network, because I've been using Fire TV for the last couple of years, and I need this in my life because I've got to be watching not only live sports, but in-demand sports replays, sports debates. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have Fire TV. Believe me, Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us here on Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep you up to date on the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. And if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Dante from Q Sports Media is with us. He was out at the second spring football practice on Wednesday. So, I mean, every time I go out there, Dante, I have regrets that I didn't watch certain players closely enough, and I try to rectify that in the next practice. Like, there were players in practice 1 that I didn't watch that much, like Trevante Citizen. I watched him more in the second practice, and some guys that I really want to look out for in the next practice: Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, Zach Carpenter, the center. Like, I just want to scrutinize his reps and take a closer look. I do want to watch Popo Aguirre a little bit more closely, because Popo, from what I've seen, he's looked very good. He's been getting rave reviews from the offseason workouts to now. And Dante, something I had a chance to catch up with Popo. He did an autograph signing in Coral Gables over the weekend. And he told me that he really feels like, kind of towards the end of last season and into this practice period, he really feels like the game is slowing down for him. And he feels just so much more comfortable with the defense. And, he can play, I think, more instinctively when you understand your assignments and the defense so much better. And this is someone I think is going to get on the field a lot. Anybody you really want to watch closely next time out?
So a couple of the guys that I've already mentioned, Horton, I'm just amazed about how big that kid is as a sophomore. I really want to see how quick he is. He reminds me of, he kind of has the build of, what was his name? Jaleel Burrows, the kid from Alabama.
Yeah. Who, by the way, he's no longer, people ask me this every day. Jamil Burrows is no longer on the team.
And I think Horton has that same kind of build as Burrows did. Real big kid. I want to see how quick he is, how he gets off the ball. It's kind of hard to see because Coach Taylor and the D linemen, they're kind of on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard to see. Another guy that I really want to get a good look at, who's also hard to see because they're on the other side of the practice field, but Chris Johnson. I think his speed is absolutely on another level. And just from the couple of games that he was able to get in last year, it was so easy for him to just catch the edge and get 5, 6 to 10 yards. It was way too easy for him. With the size he's able to put on, being able to break tackles, all that kind of stuff, even though I know the running back room is a little deep right now, I think that Chris Johnson can be a guy that, with his speed, he can be a difference maker in that running back room. Another guy that I didn't really get to see much of, just a couple of drills and whatnot, was Zaquan Patterson. I think he's going to be huge for that third
Yeah.
man in the rotation for the safety room. And I also believe that on punt coverage and special teams, he's going to be a guy that's really going to step up for us, and that's where he'll definitely earn his playing time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up because Zaquan was one of the guys that I didn't watch enough the first day, and I watched him a lot more the second day, and looks very mature for an early enrollee. And by the way, it makes me understand how well the Chaminade guys were coached up and prepared for this, because we were talking about JoJo, his high school teammate, who did play defense as well, but offensive guy at Miami, played both ways at Chaminade, and they got Zaquan playing defense for both of these guys physically and just mentally, because there doesn't seem to be any sort of confusion in drills, which obviously there's a learning curve for early enrollees, not so much for those guys. So Zaquan, I fully agree with that. That was a guy that I watched a lot more the second day. Another one, Dante, that I haven't watched nearly enough. This is one I'd said I was going to watch more in the second day, and I lied. I didn't watch him enough. Is Elijah Alston, the transfer defensive end who gets all these rave reviews from what he did at Marshall. Any expectation you have for him this year? I think he's going to be right up there among Miami's sack leaders.
So for the D-line room, there's obviously going to be a sack leader, but I think that the room is so deep that there's going to be a real nice spread in the stats with sacks. I don't think there's going to be a guy that is way above everybody else. And if there is a guy for that to be, it would be Bain, in my opinion. Which Bain looks really good, especially in the new number 4. He really looks like a star out there. It was really cool to see him after practice, hanging out with his family and whatnot. And that's just cool, because that's the kind of vibes that Miami needs to bring back, especially with having all the hometown kids coming out and seeing practice and the families and all that. One guy that I really was looking at last practice was Elijah Lofton, the true freshman.
Yeah, right end. Yeah.
So ironically, I know he's from Bishop Gorman, and I know they already call him Mini Brevin down and or up in Bishop Gorman, but he really does look like a mini Brevin Jordan from when Brevin came in his freshman year to now where Lofton's at in his freshman year. They both came in as early enrollees, I'm pretty sure. And Bishop Gorman's always been a great program for us and the guys that we've gotten from there. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited with what Lofton has to do this year, especially combining his reps with Elijah Arroyo.
I like it a lot. Well, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the quarterbacks, even beyond Ward, and I do want to answer a few of you guys' questions from the Locked On Canes insiders. Again, you can try it free for 14 days. Just click that link in the show description below. What it is you get text messages directly from my phone to yours, and vice versa. One-on-one Q&As, breaking news, practice updates, recruiting updates, all that good stuff. Try it free for 14 days. Locked On Canes insiders, and keep it locked right here. Our guy Dante from Q Sports Media is with us. LinkedIn Jobs is always with us, my friends, because if you're a small business owner, this is a must use for you. When you're hiring for that small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire because it gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates, so easy that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and that they may not have the time or resources to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We are free wherever you get your podcast. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Dante from Q Sports Media is with us. So, Dante, while it's Cam Ward to me has been good as advertised, if not better. I know we talked about him. You probably feel the same way, but what did you see from the other guys? Because something that Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator, mentioned is he's not used to having like this many quarterbacks in spring that all need reps, right? Like when you're, because some years Miami only has like 2 or 3 healthy quarterbacks for spring. I'm sure that's the same in the other places Dawson has been, where Miami's got 4 guys who've got collegiate experience, and they do have a true freshman who we think pretty highly of. So they're having to split reps amongst a number of other guys. Who beyond Ward stood out to you on Wednesday in practice?
So, who stood out to me the most, not necessarily for his play, and I'm not saying that his play was bad, but I thought that Judd was really just towering over everybody. I mean, he's 6'7", 6'8", right?
6'7".
He's a really big kid. But the biggest thing that stood out to me for the quarterback room was from from Cam Ward to the rest of the guys, Reese, Jakari, Emery. There wasn't much of a drop off, especially between the last 4 guys. There really wasn't much of a drop off. I think Reese looked really good. I thought Jakari's ball was a lot more polished. The spiral on his ball was looking real pretty. It was kind of hard to tell the difference between Cam and Jakari at some points. I thought Reese looked really good. Reese really looks like a guy that's always amped up and ready to go. A perfect number 2 guy, number 3 guy, because those are the guys you want to really be pushing that number 1 guy, no matter what. No matter if that guy is the clear number 1 or not, he always needs to be pushed, and that's how Miami's always been great, especially back in the old days. So with the quarterback room being this deep and the skill gap not really being too far from everyone under Cam, I really love that.
I want to answer a few questions here from the insiders. We got Dante with us from Q Sports Media. I'll start with this one from Rubicon, who always has good questions. He says, hey, should Miami celebrate as state champions if they beat both UF and FSU this year? He wants to know if they should make rings and T-shirts. Well, okay. T-shirts I'm cool with, and you can put out marketing material where they also play USF this year. So if you beat all 3, then I'm sure UCF would complain if they call themselves state champs. But if you beat all those teams, then you make T-shirts, whatever. But Dante, I draw the line at rings, because to me, like if you're making rings for anything other than a national championship, you're sending the message that that this is the destination, right? I don't want state championship of Florida or even ACC championship. Like that's not the long-term destination. I only want rings for a national title. Make as many T-shirts as you want to, but I draw the line at rings.
Yeah, I'll take an ACC championship ring as well.
Yeah. Okay, fair.
The state championship rings, we'll leave that stuff back in high school.
It's not a real thing. Like it's not a real championship. Like you market it, make the T-shirts, but don't make rings.
It's more to say it's a Twitter championship for those fans to really get after it, and that's always funny to see. But definitely would love to see a state championship per se this year, because it has been a while since we've seen one from the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, way too long. We get a question from Jeff, who says, hey, is it just me, or does Miami seem to be in on a lot more good talent class of 2025 this year than they were even last year? And yeah, on our previous episode with Larry Bluestein, we talked about Miami getting crystal balls this week for Amari Wallace, who's a 4-star defensive back. They got the on-3 version of a crystal ball for Chris Ewald, who's a 4-star defensive back. And definitely like that. Obviously there's so long to go in class of 2025 recruiting. Miami's only got, I think, 5 verbal commits right now. There's a long way to go, but just compared to this time last year, I would definitely say yes, Miami seems to be in it on a lot more guys early, because at this time last year, I think Miami only had 1 or 2 verbal commits, like Abram Murray and I think Judd Anderson, maybe not even yet by this time last year. And then the third guy was Chance Robinson, but that wasn't until the day of the spring game last year. So I remember, Dante, last year at this time, a lot of Hurricanes fans freaking out. It's like, we can't recruit anymore. What's happening? I think they're definitely in it on a lot more top guys right now than they were mid-March, early March of last year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I feel like the reason is because the first year, obviously, we had our bumps in the road. It didn't look too good. So a lot of the recruits for the 25 class or the 24 class really had to see what was going on with Miami. And as the season went on, everyone could feel the hype going up and up and up and up, and the recruiting levels were going up like crazy. Um, I think that from that here on out, the recruiting is going to be exactly how it is with top quarterbacks like 2026 Dia Bell. You know, he was at practice yesterday, super invested. He's a great kid, a great leader within the area, and a lot of kids really look up to him as the quarterback in the area, kind of like how they did Ja'Cory Harris and those kind of guys. So the fact that a 2026 guy like Dia Bell was already at practice taking visits on a Wednesday is awesome because you want the younger kids to see that and see that the quarterback for Miami, our guy, the guy who Miami should want, is at practice and is invested. So the recruiting from here on out, I believe, will be like this, to where younger guys are always coming in, coming out. There's always Miami Garden Ravens, organizations like that coming in to watch practice. So these kids that are super young right now are really starting to get the taste of what Miami football should really look like and the way it should be recruited.
I like it. I want to answer one more question. Might be kind of a quick answer. Let me add one more thing to the previous question. It's like I think like for this coming season, like I think winning bigger and winning more than last year is even more important because I think when you're heading into year 3 of this current rebuild, like you can't really use like after this year you can't use any smoke and mirrors. Like if Miami goes 7-5 again or 6-6, I think it's going to be a harder sell. So as long as you keep getting better results on the field, it's going to keep going up. We get a question from Mike who says, hey, with all the changes at Ohio State, he's talking about all the staff changes and stuff, coaching changes. Any scuttle on a Jeremiah Smith transfer portal entry? I'm just going to say no, Dante. In fact, I've been reading this week about, I guess Ohio State has already started their spring ball, and Jeremiah, it's not surprisingly, is apparently doing really, really well there. I think if Miami was ever going to turn that, the time to do it was the night of National Signing Day when he hadn't signed the letter yet and he was debating. I think that was the time to get him to switch. I think he's a Buckeye. It is what it is.
You're right, Donno. It is what it is. He is a Buckeye. College football is crazy, so I'm not going to say there's not a chance. But I feel like kind of going back to the last question and this question at the same time, the fact that we were able to be in the conversation for Jeremiah Smith is what's eye-opening to me because those kids didn't even turn their back or look over their shoulder to see if we were the ones calling them or not. Jeremiah
Right.
was really invested in coming to Miami, and he left the option up until the very last second. Through all the struggles that we went through on Twitter trying to figure out if it was happening or not, it didn't. So we kind of just have to live with that. I did see some of the pictures and videos of Jeremiah there. He looks like he's on another level, but I'm also very excited with the wide receiver core that we have right now. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that how hard it is for JoJo to play next to a guy that's in the same position as him, but he's the number 1 overall recruit. He's the number 1 wide receiver. He's getting called one of the biggest recruits ever. And the fact that JoJo was still able to be a 5-star and show out the way he did, I think that really speaks volumes to what kind of player JoJo is. So to go back and answer your question, I'm not really too worried about Jeremiah because I like what we have.
Well said. Great stuff. Make sure you guys are following Dante. He really does a good job, not only covering the Canes, but covering recruiting and a lot of the high school camps and 7-on-7 events. So follow him on X at Q Sports Media 2. I always have to ask you, Dante, what's the Instagram? Because I want to make sure I give that out as well. What is that one?
It's the same, just Q Sports Media, but no 2. It's just straight
Gotcha.
Q Sports Media.
I'm going to ask you that same question every time I have you on because I have a terrible memory. We will talk to you guys again.
Listeners need to hear it too, so it's
Exactly. We appreciate this guy so much. Thank you guys for making Locked On Canes your first listen each and every day. We'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.